Hey guys, Morgan here, and today we're talking about my imaginary friends who are right here. I'm pretending that they are, at least, because obviously you can't see them since they only exist in my mind. And so, for a quick introduction, I've had imaginary friends in some form since I was 4 years old. Unlike some kids, though, I'm now 24, and I haven't given them up, and I don't think I ever will. It's fun to play pretend, what can I say? Anyway, today we're starting a new channel where I talk about my imaginary friends. And the first series we're doing on this channel is introducing my imaginary friends. We're gonna do one for each imaginary friend. I have 1,000 plus of them. Yes, I do need a Google Docs sheet to keep track of them. But today's imaginary friend was my mom's favorite before she died. Crystal Quartz is the name of this imaginary friend. Now, Crystal is a dragon. And the dragons in my world have this thing where they have powers based on different elements, like earth, water, fire, air, and also some other ones that aren't used as commonly. There's 44 of these elements in total, and I have at least one dragon for each of them. And Crystal is, you guessed it by her name probably, a crystal dragon. Now, Crystal is over 100 years old in human years, but luckily for her, dragons live longer than humans. So in dragon years, she's probably like in her early 20s, I think. And she grew up in London, England, which in my world is a place where all sorts of different magical creatures and humans live together. And let's just say that she has a bit of an English accent because of her time in London. And while she was living in London, her parents were pretty damn rich, and I think they still are. Unfortunately for her, she got her inheritance taken away after she went to Icefire University in New York, which is a college for dragons, and the reason for this is she participated in an Occupy Wall Street protest, which, if you're wondering why that would cause her parents to turn against her, well, they said it was because, you shouldn't mingle in human affairs, but Crystal thinks, and I tend to agree with her, that it's probably because her parents were friends with the bankers. So, Crystal lost her inheritance. She ended up having to drop out of college. She basically couch hopped for the next few human years of her life, living with different friends that she met while in university. And then eventually she ended up as a member of my imaginary friend group after some of her college friends took her to an event hosted by some of my imaginary friends who I think I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but some of my imaginary friends are based on like real people or pre-existing characters. Some of them I made up myself, like Crystal, for example. But some of my imaginary friends who are based on, like, real people and pre-existing characters were hosting an event. Crystal's friends dragged her to that event. And there she met my imaginary friend Paris Hilton, who was extremely impressed with her story about how she went to college to get into the fashion industry and how she ended up losing her inheritance. and ended up not being able to do that. And Paris was so fascinated with the whole fashion angle of it that she took Crystal to see me. And we hit it off instantly, even though Crystal was really annoying about trying to get me to put makeup on my face and tie my hair up in braids. Yeah, that was a little annoying. But yeah, other than that, I liked Crystal from the start, pretty much. As for where she is now, to this day, Crystal is obsessed with fashion. She also enjoys things like painting, musical theater, and reading books, and of course listening to music, which is something all my imaginary friends enjoy. She's also a bit of a neat freak, which kind of puts her at odds with me because this house is a mess. Yeah, she's always getting on to me about the way the house looks. Thankfully, me and my aunt are taking care of that. So she's more than a little bit happy that this house is getting slowly but surely cleaner. If you're wondering what kind of things Crystal enjoys reading and listening to, for books, she's a huge fan of anything with beautiful writing and immersive setting, and she's also a big fan of anything fantasy or romance related. Some of her favorite genres are romantasy, which combines her two favorite genres of fantasy and romance. She's also a big fan of science fiction, dark academia, historical fiction, classics, and sometimes horror if it's not too gory. Like, extreme horror isn't her thing, but just regular horror is cool for her. And for music, she likes a lot of different stuff there, as do pretty much all my imaginary friends. Get used to hearing that. But some of her favorite genres include classical, jazz, folk, the more atmospheric side of electronic music with stuff like vaporwave, dungeon synth, progressive electronic, etc. Ambient, R&B, and like old school country, and also Americana, and various forms of regional music from different parts of the world, and various types of rock music, such as post-rock, progressive metal, symphonic metal, post-punk and all of its related genres like darkwave and whatnot, and also indie rock. So, yeah, her taste is pretty damn varied on that front. She also likes art pop and synth pop. Yeah. She's kind of sophisticated in terms of music taste. She's like, I guess back in the day you could say she was a pitchfork reader. Nowadays you can say, oh, she's the kind of person who would go on Rate Your Music. Anyway, now that I'm done geeking out about our shared interests, I'll just tell you that Crystal loved my imaginary friend group the minute she joined us. She loved it even more after she became something of a folk hero within our circle for taking the life of Slender Man's brother, Offender Man, after he tried to do something horrible, which I will not say on camera, to my imaginary friend Sarah Palin. So, yeah. She really enjoyed the attention after that, plus she was just proud of herself for being a hero. Some of her closest friends in my imaginary friend group include Rarity from My Little Pony, who she likes because of their shared interest in beauty and fashion and whatnot. Paris Hilton, who she likes for similar reasons. And also her fellow members of what's known as the Decorative Committee, which is basically just a small, unofficial group of my imaginary friends who like to decorate for every major holiday. Like, they make tons of decorations for each one, or at least all the major ones. And some of the members of that group that Crystal is close with include Anne Frank, who you might know as the author of Diary of a Young Girl, Ponyboy Curtis from The Outsiders, Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony, this girl that I completely made up named Julia Rucker, who is a bit of a kleptomaniac, but she's also a great artist. This unicorn named Rainbow, who is not related to My Little Pony, despite the name. But Rainbow has the ability to change things make things different colors. And then there's also Crystal's fellow dragon, Blaze Flarington, who's a fire dragon. He likes to draw, so he got involved that way. Yeah, there's others, but those are just a few of the big ones. Other fun facts about Crystal are that she speaks in a very posh English accent, which my mom used to love to kind of make fun of her for how snooty she sounded to her American ears. And while she's not close friends with Archibald Snatcher from the Box Trolls, they did develop a little bit of a friendship after Crystal, along with Paris Hilton and Rarity, helped make a dress and put on some makeup for a concert Archibald Snatcher was doing, a Pride-themed concert specifically, where he dressed in drag and performed some LGBTQ plus songs. And Crystal is also a little bit of a political activist. She's hugely in favor of getting money out of politics on both sides. Because that's kind of what led to Occupy Wall Street, which in turn led to her parents disowning her, so she just wants money to get out of politics now. Politically speaking, she identifies as center-left by European standards and far-left by American standards. Like, she's not quite a socialist, but she's pretty damn close. And that concludes my first video about my imaginary friends. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, or Crystal will hunt you down and make crystals grow out of your body, the way she did with a Fender Man. Haha, just kidding. She's not real. She couldn't do that if she wanted to, and I don't think she'd want to anyway. She's too nice. Anyway, I'm Morgan. These are my imaginary friends, and I'm out.